Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And boy, do we have an adventure of our lifetime for you today. And we're so glad that you're here. One of my favorite people on the entire planet is with me today, and that would be Holly Berry. Holly, how are you, young lady?
I'm doing so good today. Hello, hello. It is sunny. It is actually springtime and warm. It's not just the normal drizzle and rain that we get around here in the springtime. So all my little solar panels are getting charged.
I didn't know you had solar panels. That's pretty cool. And you're being a modern woman with that stuff. So that's good. Would you like to tell everybody what we've got planned for today going forward?
Yes, I would, because it's very exciting. It's been a conversation years in the making with some incredible people that are now my new favorite, like, remote relationship women that I get to connect with virtually because they're in a different place far away. So I don't get to see them that often, or yet to be seen in person. I look forward to that hopefully someday. But they've become very near and dear to my heart, as I believe yours too, Kevin.
Oh, absolutely. They are people that are really doing some extraordinary work for all of us on the planet. And so we're going to be talking about that today with them. Would you like to introduce our guest today?
Absolutely. So today we are interviewing live. And for you listening out there, our dear audience, if you are listening live on YouTube, you can comment and ask questions. And our plan is to do this as often as possible every month on the first Monday and the third Monday, and be able to respond to your comments live in YouTube as well. So that's really exciting. If we end up giving away prizes or taking polls or surveys or doing games or any of that, like, we'll have the live YouTube chat being monitored. So that's really exciting for me. So without further ado, I would like to present. Is there any kind of sound effects your soundboard can make, Kevin?
Well, when you introduce them, we'll do something.
Right after that. Okay. So Amy and Nancy from the Passionistas Project. I can wing it. Dun, 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 dun. How's that?
Well, hold on.
I would like an old car horn sound, like an aruga or something like that.
Yeah. That's nice too.
Nice.
That's actually good feedback for Kevin, because he was just saying this morning, he's like, I need to get some new sound effects on my board. So awooga, Kevin, awooga.
Awooga. Or what, Nan, what were you saying? Your husband walks in every time you've just finished a Duolingo round?
I'm playing that Duolingo language game, and just the timing of it. I'm usually playing it in bed before I fall asleep, and after my husband brushes his teeth and comes into the bedroom, usually he walks in as Russ is going dun 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 when I finish a round.
we as men, we always like a dun 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 when we enter the bedroom.
Very happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We often don't get that, but that's good. That's good when we get that. Oh, welcome to the show, ladies. And I'm going to kind of let Holly take the lead, because she and I and you have done several shows together. We are just enamored with what you do and your background and all the things that you do. So I'm going to just kind of be here, and I because I have trouble shutting up, I will probably speak a little bit, but I want Holly to take the lead of this, because she's got she actually prepared. So
well, we love having you here, Kevin. So feel free to chirp up when you want to. You're definitely part of the conversation.
Please. With
that being said, so the questions I came up with ahead of time, for everyone listening right now, Amy and Nancy have their own podcast as well. And Kevin and Positive Talk Radio met the Passionistas Project podcast. And the two podcast guests have been guests on each other's shows back and forth. And so this is a joint venture where every month, twice a month, we look forward to featuring the Passionistas on Positive Talk Radio as kind of a top 100 long-term, like, great collaboration that I'm very excited about. With the questions I came up with, half of them refer to your podcast and your history with your podcast. And then the other half of them are more the future development going forward questions.
Great.
And since they're not like explicitly split into that, like, as I'm asking the questions, just know if it's referring to a question about history and learning and things like that, that's your podcast. And then when it's referring to going forward and, you know, development and things like that, that's this joint venture. And so that I just wanted to preface that because I realized reading through the questions and it being two different podcasts, it's good to specify that going in, especially for our listeners.
Perfect.
Makes sense.
So, unless
Can I just say thank you both so much for having us, and also for this collaboration. We adore you both, and we're really excited about all of this. So thank you for inviting us.
Well, Holly, and you get to go ahead because I'm not sure if you're going to ask the question that's in my mind to ask. So we'll do yours first to see if you got it already handled.
I got 20. Go for it, mister.
Well, I just wanted to preface this by saying that the Passionistas, I even said that correctly, they are doing some really cool work in the world. And I would love for you to tell our audience just really off the top what it is that you are doing and why what you are doing is so important to all of us.
Go ahead, Ann.
You go. You first.
Okay.
Well, let's not be polite, ladies. Let's just go for it.
Remember Chip and Dale, the Disney cartoons? Indubitably. Well, for those people who are listening that don't know us, we are sisters, which is an important part of the story. We have backgrounds in the entertainment industry, but about 20-something years ago, we decided that we wanted to leave our careers and work together, led us to becoming celebrity interviewers. And then in 2016, when the world was kind of imploding slightly, we decided that we wanted to use those skills for good. So we started interviewing women. We started our podcast called the Passionistas Project Podcast, where we interview women who are following their passions to inspire other women to do the same. So that led to a subscription box full of products from women-owned businesses, and to our annual virtual Women's Equality Summit, where we bring women from marginalized communities together to talk about issues that impact them and their communities, but also to kind of show them and everybody else like we have more in common than we do the things that separate us. And if we kind of join together, rather than be off in separate factions fighting for our own individual causes, we'll be a stronger unified force. And then last year, we just were feeling like we needed to take a step back and really look at what we were doing and really focus on what our community needed. And, you know, with the robots that are taking over the world and kind of the fallout of COVID and people still feeling isolated, we decided to give everybody what we have, which is the thing that all the people we know that know us tell us they want, which is what we have with each other. So we're best friends. We've been best friends since I was born. Because Nancy's older, and in case you didn't know, and so we, you know, we work together. We're best friends. We always support each other. We can take off time when we need to, and the other will step in. If someone's having a health crisis, like Nancy did last year, we can pick up the slack. We cheer each other on, and mostly just laugh and have fun, no matter what's going on. And we know so many women who are out there starting businesses on their own, or just trying to have personal growth on their own, or be an activist, and they don't have anybody on their side to have that bond with. So we want to give our sisterhood to all the women of the world, not only from us, but from the other women in the community. So we built an online sisterhood called the Passionistas Project Sisterhood, of which Holly is a big part. And we are starting to take our social media community and move them over into this space where we can just be authentic and support each other and have fun.
Yeah, and with the sisterhood, people can reach me and contact me through anaturaldesign.com. If you want a link to their sisterhood platform, it's very friendly, very inviting, very, very supportive. I'd be more than happy to send that link. You just have to request it by messaging me on info@anaturaldesign or anaturaldesign.com. Kevin, you had a question. You were going to say something. Go for it.
No, I was going to say, Holly, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I read your mind apparently. Perfect. Well, would you like question number 1, ladies?
We love question number 1.
All right. So with this collaboration where the Passionistas is being featured monthly on positivetalkradio.net, can you give us and the listeners a brief overview of what your show is going to be about and what inspired its creation?
What we're planning on doing is bringing a different Passionista with us each time. So we're going to start with our Power Passionistas. So within our community, we have a group of resident experts that are our Power Passionistas, and they're basically are the ones who are bringing the content to our community and our users. And our community is basically broken down into 3 pillars. So we cover not only business development, but personal growth and social impact. So the Power Passionistas have expertise in those areas. So each time we come on the show, we're going to bring a different woman with us. So you'll get to hear their amazing perspectives because they're all incredible. And also our goal with everything we do is to just shine a light on other women and what they're doing. So this is our way to do that. So we're really excited about it.
As am I. And feel free to chime in, Amy or Kevin. If not, I'm happy to go through these questions.
Yeah, I think that answered it.
Okay, awesome. Well, the next one is, who is your target audience and how do you plan to engage them in each episode?
So our target audience is obviously women, although we say that, but we have found that men, and Kevin, you can chime in on this, men are actually really fascinated by the conversations that we have. We've had men attend our Women's Equality Summit and say to us after the fact, I have never heard women talk that way or heard that perspective on an issue, because women don't talk like that when I'm in the room. So the men who come and listen to us actually really learn a lot about how women feel about different topics.
Well, just we're not all that bright, us guys, and it is really helpful for us as we move forward through time that we get an understanding of how, I don't know, like 50% of the population lives.
Yeah. And
it's an important aspect of how we can learn to be better men. Because I know that you guys have been around men, and you know that we're not all that bright as far as figuring stuff out. And so we need help with that sometimes.
Well, it's not that you're not bright. It's just you don't have our experience, right? So I was on a call recently with a guy, and we were on a call. It's probably 8 people on a call, and I made a point about. I was asked a question by the person leading the call, and I answered it. And there was a guy in the Zoom, and he had a differing opinion, which is totally cool. I listened to his opinion. And then I was asked by the same person leading the group to continue to give my feedback. So I started to do that, and he just kept interrupting me. And he kept talking over me. And to the point where I was like, I just stopped. Normally I would have pushed back, but this was like a rabbi that was leading the thing. I didn't want to be, that person. And so I let him kind of steamroller over me. And after the call, the guy that I was with said to me, that guy was really rude. Why did he keep interrupting you? And I said, often in business, that is the attitude that women are faced with. When I worked at the studio, that happened to me 20 times a day. So you wouldn't know that because you have never been in a situation where someone did that to you consistently. Not to say men aren't rude to men sometimes, but it's a very common, like I've told that story to many women now, and they're like, oh, that's what happens when you're in a meeting with a bunch of guys. So it's not that men are dumb. It's just that they don't know what we go through. And part of that is because we've learned over the years to just be like, hey, it's cool. He interrupted me. I'm used to it. No big deal. But now that your eyes are more open to it, you can be like, hey, you know what? Can we hear what her thought is? Can you let her finish her sentence? So.
Or the taking credit for the thing. That's the same conversation too that men often do. Is a woman will say an idea in a meeting, and then she'll get ignored, and then a guy will say the exact same thing a few minutes later, and everyone will be like, "That's brilliant, Joe. Why didn't I think of that?" And it'd be like, "Wait, no."
Yeah.
And instead of making a big deal out of it, women usually were like, oh, whatever, let his ego get the credit. But we've finally got to the point, I think, where women are like, no, you don't get the credit. It was my idea. So I do think Amy's right. It's just making men aware of those things, because up until now, women didn't say anything. And we need to say it so that you hear it and then you can be aware of it.
Yeah. And I want to say, we're not a men bashing organization. We love men, and we are very lucky to be supported by so many great men. So I don't want anyone listening to think all we do is in the sisterhood is like say bad things about men. But it's just, if we don't raise awareness about certain things, they'll just keep happening. So.
Well, part of it is an educational process for us, because I was having a conversation with somebody just the other day, and it never dawned on me, as an example, that I need to look at where I'm parking to make sure if I'm going to come back after dark that there's lights so I never have in my life had to look and say, well, I'm going to park here because it's going to be light after dark, or that I have my keys in my hand and I'm looking around to see where everybody is because I need to be careful.
Just in case.
It never dawned on it. And for most guys, unless it's like a gang situation, then all bets are off. But it never dawned on us that we're not scared of just walking to your car the way the women have to be careful about. And so it's really good for us to understand what you actually have to go through just to get through your day that is different than what we have to go through. So what you guys are doing, and it's not men bashing, I think it's men education wise, because you're giving us a better idea of who we really are and who we could be, to be more understanding of the differences that you guys, like all three of you are pretty women, and to deal with what you have to deal with on a daily basis. It's been 25 years since somebody has said to me, my, you're cute, let's so anyway, Holly, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. This is your show, sir.
But you guys get my point, right?
Totally. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's look, we're different. Men and women are different, and there's stuff that happens that is going to keep going for a while, and there's a lot that's improved. One of the things we talk about a lot is the fact that there's perception of equality. Because we have come a long way. There's the perception that things are maybe further along than they really are, because, hey, women are working and women are doing this and women are, pro athletes or whatever the things are. But in reality, and especially in, not to get too political, but in the last year or so, as things get stripped away, we need to kind of remind everybody, like, yeah, it's still not equal pay, still not in the Constitution, still, if you're making less venture capital, and especially if you're a woman of color. So things like that are just healthy reminders, that it may look a little bit better on paper or in conversation than it really is on paper,
Oop,
Yeah, last week was Equal Pay Day, and it was the day that, so if a man and a woman had started working the same job on January 1st, 2023, by the end of 2023, the man would have earned his salary. The woman would have had to keep working until last week, which was the middle of March, to earn the exact same amount of money. So that's what Equal Pay Day marks.
I've got a good one for you, Holly. Are you a basketball fan, Holly? There's a woman. Do you know who Pete Maravich is or was? He's passed now.
No.
He had the record for the most points scored in college by anybody. Mm-hmm. This last week or the week before, it was surpassed by a female basketball player.
Yeah.
Now she's going into the WNBA draft. You know how much she's going to make?
I forget, but it's $1 gazillion.
No, she's going to make $70,000 to as the number one draft choice of being the best woman basketball player on the planet. There are men basketball players. Now, granted, I get it. There's sponsorship differences and that kind of stuff. But he's going to make several $1 million as a guy coming out of there and out of college. And he's not nearly as good as she is. I think that is a crime that we should be addressing.
Well, it's like the female soccer team, right? The U.S. female soccer team, women's soccer team, who were like the most winning soccer team for years, and they were like starving and sharing, apartments and things like that because they couldn't afford to live on their salaries, and that's why they went on such a tear to get equal pay and finally won. Mm-hmm. But this goes back to Billie Jean King. I mean, Billie Jean King started her organization in the 70s to try and get equality for female athletes,
What was his name?
Bobby Riggs.
Bobby Riggs.
Battle of the Sexes.
Battle of the Sexes.
For those of you that are a little younger, way back when Billie Jean King was the best female tennis player in the world. And this guy by the name of Bobby Riggs, who was a little over 50, a little paunchy, and he swore that he could beat her. And so they had a battle of the sexes thing, and she cleaned his clock. So anyway, Holly, I apologize. So you
No, this is really fascinating because I'm learning so much. I love it.
So go ahead. You have another question, my dear.
Oh, sure. Okay, let's go right down the list. So, and this one is for all of our awesome listeners tuning in now and in the future. And so for Amy and Nancy, can you share a little bit more about any of the exciting themes, maybe your pillars you were talking about, or topics that we can look forward to in the upcoming episodes where you're hosted on Positive Talk Radio and featuring Passionistas?
I forget whose turn it is, Amy. I'll go.
I don't go. You go. You guys. Look, I've been chatting a lot.
Yeah, like we said, the Power Passionistas cover our 3 pillars. So business development, personal growth, and social impact. So we haven't locked in. We have some really great lined up that we're hoping to get to for the very first show, which is in 2 weeks, but we don't know that one yet. But in a month, we're bringing on Dr. Melissa Bird, who is an amazing woman. She is literally magical. And she's going to be talking about trusting your intuition and letting go of perfectionism. She's actually going to be teaching the first course in our community. So they're bringing her on right before the course starts so people can learn a little bit about what the course is going to be. But after that, we're going to be bringing on Lauren Best, who's a hypnotherapist. We're going to be bringing on Julie DeLuca Collins, who practices tiny habits. So she helps you like get all your ducks in a row and like really make habitual practices in your life to make your daily life easier and your business life easier. We're going to be bringing on Catherine Gray, who is she has a documentary called Show Her the Money, and it's about women who give other women venture capital and angel investments, because of all of the venture capital money in the United States every year, only 2% of it goes to women. Yes, that's what I said. 2%. 98% of all venture capital goes to businesses owned by men, and 2% goes to women. So she
and 0.8% goes to women of color.
Yeah. And so she has this documentary film that's amazing, and it shows the perspectives of from the women who start the businesses, the women who want to invest in women-owned business, and also women who have started venture capital funds. So they bring the investors together and fund these women-owned businesses. And it's a fascinating film. And so we're going to be bringing Catherine on at some point. We're going to be bringing Selene Luna on, who is a disability rights activist. I think you've had her on the show before, and she's absolutely amazing and really eye-opening. She really has taught us a lot about the struggles of people in the disabilities community and what they go through on a daily basis, and talk about not knowing what you don't know. Every time we talk to her, we learn something different. So she's incredible. We're going to be bringing on Denaya Scanavarino, who built one of the largest or the largest Latina groups on Clubhouse during the pandemic. She had 30 or 40,000 members in this group.
Wow.
And she also has a company called Lunasol that does affiliate marketing. So she's just a really brilliant business mind. Who did I miss, Amy? Kylie Stone is a woman in Australia who actually was really instrumental in helping us rebrand this year and figuring out the direction we were going. She had a major career in News Corp in Australia. And then when she had children, was sort of denigrated to part-time work and not really included in the leadership position anymore, and decided, oh, that doesn't work, and has basically redefined what leadership is and teaches women how to define leadership for themselves. And she teaches a lot of transformational leadership courses and emerging leader courses, and she's phenomenal. So those are the kinds of things we're going to be talking about.
Crystal, don't forget Crystal.
Oh, and Crystal Lunice Walker is amazing. She's our newest Power Passionista, and she is a DEI coach. So she works with people in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's a professor, and she coaches companies on how to make sure that their companies and their organizations are inclusive and diverse and equitable. So yeah, fascinating women.
And so many more. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
So excited. Just throwing this out there, Kevin. It would be fun to have movie nights on your Positive Connections community. And like, I would love to watch the venture capitalist women focused one in a group like that online. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Write that down. We got to save that one because that's a good
one. We are already talking to Catherine too about doing that in the Passionistas group too, so we can tell her that you guys want to do it as well. So
yeah,
we would love that.
Yeah.
We'd love it. I can't remember if they've been to Seattle already or not, but they were heading up that way. So check the world tour calendar, Holly, and maybe coming to you.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, remind me to do that, because if they're coming north from down south, they would hit you first before me as far as general zones.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Let's see. Well, this one's more in reference to your podcast. So, in terms of content or presentation, what's been the biggest learning curve for you as hosts?
I mean, we had the interviewing part kind of down because we had done so many interviews before we started our podcast, which is part of the reason we felt confident even beginning. So for us, it really was like a technology thing. You know, Nancy and I did what we tend to do with most of the things we've done in our entire careers since the internet existed, which is like, let's do that. Okay, how do you do it? I don't know. Let's Google it. Okay. We actually used to ask Jeeves, Kevin. That's how old we are, and and so we we just didn't know, like, how do you even start, and it's interesting because we were just talking to a woman on Friday who we had a little online get together, and she said, oh, I really have wanted to start a podcast, but I don't know, I'm really not sure what to do. And we were like, we'll get on a call, we'll talk you through it, because once you get over that initial, like, what is the technology, how do you deal with all that, it's pretty straightforward. So that's been the biggest challenge. I mean, one of the things we did from day one was we decided that every guest we had, we were going to ask them to nominate somebody else for us to interview. So we've never had a shortage of guests, and we've been able to meet women that never in a million years would we have found out about just because somebody recommended them. So I would say the technology has been the most challenging, but we figured it out pretty fast. And, then it was just a matter of having conversations, which has been fun.
If I could give one piece of advice to somebody that is considering doing a podcast, first of all, be passionate about it.
Yeah.
Decide that you're going to do it for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first episode that you do, your mother and your brother and maybe your aunt are going to listen. And so did you know that 95% of podcasts don't make it past 25 episodes?
Just learned that, like, in the last few months.
And that's because people think wrongly that, oh, it's easy, I'm going to make $1 million and it's hard work. It takes a lot of time. You have to be passionate about it, and you have to have a good sense for who's a good guest to have on your program. As an example, you two we've talked about everything from interviewing celebrities to people that, all kinds of different things. And it is an interesting thing because we make it interesting. And with Holly here and you, and it's an interesting dynamic that's put out there. So I would encourage somebody, if you want to learn, if you're a woman who wants to have a podcast, contact Nancy and Amy, because they can help you figure it out, or they can send you to someone like me who has been doing this since 2003 and stuff. So yeah, we can all help you, and we want to help you, because the more that we can do, the better we are. Holly, I return to you, ma'am.
So if you want to contact, if you're listening right now, you out there listening in the virtual world, if you do want to contact Amy or Nancy, this is how. Go ahead, Amy or Nancy.
The best way to reach us is go to thepassionistasproject.com. We have actually set up a special page for Positive Talk listeners. So you can go to passionistasproject.com/positive talk. And if you go there, you can join the community. You can find all our contacts and our socials and all that. So you can reach out to us through social media. You can email us. Everything's there. But also, if you want to join the community, there's a free version and there's a paid version. And if you go to thepassionistasproject.com/positive talk, you can get a 20% discount with the code. What is it? I have it right here. PTR20. So all in that same place.
Kevin and I will be your backsplash.
Very good. I was thinking of some anyway. Very nice. And thank you for that. We really appreciate that. It's really cool.
Our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
This one's for you, Kevin. So with this, just today, our very first launch in this collaboration show, how do you see the show evolving in the future? And are there any long-term goals that you're aiming for related to having the Passionistas and Amy and Nancy on Positive Talk Radio?
Well, first of all, you guys are so entertaining and you're so much fun. And the people that you bring, quite frankly, I don't have access to. And because they're part of your group and they know what you're doing, and your guys are like a magnet to some really, really cool people. And so having you and us working together on this just gives us a much deeper, more rich presentation that we can help women understand that women, you're people too, gall darn it, and you don't deserve to make 70% of what a man makes, and that we deserve, or the venture capital, which I think is just absolutely obscene, and stuff, and this is the education for everybody that I'm really excited about doing, and that's paramount to making it better for everybody. Did that answer your question, my dear?
I think it did. Amy or Nancy, do you have any questions related to that at all, or long-term goals? Or
I mean, I think Kevin, you are always so supportive of us, of women, of the women that we've sent your way. You know, you guys graciously have interviewed, when we've had our Women's Equality Summit, you've interviewed a lot of the women who were participating. And I'm always, one of the things I always love is you always quote some of the women you talked to that we turned you on to, not necessarily remembering that we were the ones that turned you on to them. So it's not like, I know you're not just parroting it back to us so that we'll go, oh yeah, Kevin talked to that person. You really absorbed the points about, especially like disability rights and things like that. So I always really appreciate that. I know you're listening, and like us, you're learning from these women too. So I'm just excited to, Nancy and I are so excited by this opportunity. Every time someone says like, what's going on? We're like, well, we're going to do this collaboration with Kevin and Holly. So we're really excited about it. And, you know, we just meet, we agree, like we know so many cool women. Sometimes we're like, there's no way that woman actually wants to be our friend. She's just too cool. So we do know so many cool women, and we met even last week, we met some women who were like unbelievable, who are already like partnering with us to help expand things. So we know we talked about the core women who we're going to bring on, but we're already kind of ruminating on who the next wave of women we want to bring on are. And some of them are just kind of going to blow your mind. They're all amazing. And it's not like, oh, they brought on the 3 cool women they knew and that's it. It's like, oh, but wait till you meet her. So that's what I'm excited about, is sharing everybody with all of you. So.
It's an evolving process of what you do. It's like when I interviewed Luna, right?
That's Luna. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And she told me that in the disability world, and a lot of people don't know this, it bears repeating, I want to say it now. A lot of people don't know that in the disability world, a company gets a tax credit for hiring somebody with an approved disability. Mm-hmm. The company then can turn around and pay that individual 22 cents an hour. Mm-hmm. And that is allowed. Mm-hmm. It amazes me that we as a culture in the United States, the richest country in the world, or one of them, mm-hmm. will allow people with disability to get paid virtually nothing. Mm-hmm. And yet they get tax credits for it. It's just, so you're educating me so that we can educate people at large to understand this is just, I would say a word that I can't say on TV or radio. It's just baloney. You just can't do that.
Yeah, and I was just literally before this call was out at a big box retailer and had a question, and someone who came up to help me had a disability and they went off to help someone else. And when the manager came over, we were discussing the program that they had to bring in the disability community into their organization. And I was like, that's great. Are they being paid a fair wage? Oh, yes, they are, So now we know to ask, not just to observe, but to say, like, that's great. Are they being treated? Are people of any background in a situation being treated fairly? And they're questions that we might not have thought to ask before or known to ask, which is on us. We should be better educating ourselves. But with each new piece of knowledge that we have, we're just armed to better. Someone recently told us, Crystal was talking about the difference between an ally and an advocate. And an ally is someone who supports people and wants to be supportive of a cause. An advocate is someone that puts something of themselves on the line to see that change happen. So how do we shift from being just allies who feel badly these things are happening to people to being advocates who are willing to speak out and try and make a difference in people's lives?
It's really important. So, Holly, do you have another question, my dear?
Oh, sure. I had 20 we're pulling from. This is super fun. This one's actually probably for you, Kevin, since this is on positivetalkradio.net. How do you plan to incorporate listener feedback into the direction of the show as it evolves?
When somebody has a direct idea or thought, I'm really pleased. We've joined the Brushwood Media Network, and we're starting to get feedback from listeners that really enjoy the show and stuff. And so our audience is larger and it's growing all the time. And so it's really a nice place for us to have a larger platform. And if somebody has a great idea, like, why don't you get a new host or something like that? They can give us that. I might not accept that particular piece of advice, but if they say, why don't you, this is something that I've heard about, as long as it's not politics and religion, and because we want to be positive and everybody to feel good about it. But we're always interested in new topics and new subjects. If you listen to the show for any length of time, we've done a lot of that, haven't we, Holly?
So many topics. Yeah. And this is just going to exponentially highlight and create all kinds of fun rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Mr. Kevin.
Oh no. I got sidetracked, I'm afraid. So no,
it's a rabbit hole.
I went down a rabbit hole just briefly. But no, it's we're looking for newness and new ways of thinking, new ways of being. And quite frankly, it still amazes me that the difference between men and women is still so vast that you guys get paid 70% of what a man makes. And that doesn't make any logical sense to me.
Yeah.
But did you guys have any logical reason why, other than the fact of, an employer might say, well, he's got a family to take care of. Like, you don't?
I wouldn't say logical. I would say historical.
Yes.
There you go.
Is it historical because, and this is a question for you guys, is it historical because they've been able to get away with it, and so they continue to get away with it because that's just, quote unquote, well, that's just how it's always been?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just good business, right? If you can save your bottom line by paying her less and she doesn't know, why not? Why not get away with it? And until recently, we weren't, the studies weren't being done. Studies don't get done that help women. So, until recently, the facts weren't there, and now they're surfacing, and it's like, wait a minute, you get paid what? And
yeah, and I think historically, men did make more money because they were the breadwinners, right? And women were staying home and taking care of the house, as if that's not a job that someone should be compensated for. And so we never caught up. And I do think, again, not to be political, but I do think that a part of the issue is like, women are not in the Constitution of the United States. The Equal Rights Amendment is there, ready to be signed off, and no one will give the green light for it to be signed off on. So until we're actually considered legally equal, things can get reversed. And you got to keep in mind, women couldn't even get a credit card on their own until the 70s.
That still blows my mind. I didn't learn that until like the last 10 years, and blows my mind. It was never talked about when I was growing up, ever.
Couldn't buy a house. You couldn't get a bank account.
I don't remember if I told this story before on this show, but I used to live alone and have my own house. And whenever I had contractors come, I would always say that my boyfriend lived with me because I didn't want anyone to know I was a single woman living alone in a house, back to like not, making sure you're parked under a, light in a parking lot. I just didn't want strangers to know I lived there by myself. So I'd always say, oh, my boyfriend is at work, but I make the decisions. I make the financial decisions. At one point, I needed to repave my driveway. I had 3 different contractors say to me, I'll come back when your husband's home. And I would say, no, I'm paying the bills. I make all the decisions. He has nothing to do with it. I am making this choice. Yeah, just tell him to call me and I can talk to him about it. They would not even give me a quote on the work. This was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. They wouldn't even give me a quote on the work in my own house that I paid for myself, paid off 100% at that point by myself. They wouldn't even give me a quote.
That still blows my mind. That was like it. I mean, that's not before the year 2000. That's well after the.
Right.
That's like what? Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about what you were just saying, and that permeates our society in so many ways. That one of the things that, to answer your previous question, Holly, one of the things that I would really like for men to understand is how to talk to a woman as an equal. Well, little lady, I'm going to give you, I can't give you a quote because I'm going to wait for your man to show up, and so that we can do that and stuff. Little lady, you don't. I can give you a quote, but you won't understand it anyway, and so there's no point in going and doing that. When we'll just wait for the fella to come home, and we can talk like a couple of guys.
Yeah.
That happens all the time, still, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They call it mansplaining for a reason, Kevin. It's not saying every man is a mansplainer, but there is mansplaining that happens.
One of our biggest pet peeves is parking garages and men who feel like they have to show the little lady how to park back out of the space.
Well, see, so this will be highly educational for both men and women, because women need to know how they would like to be talked to, how they would like to be addressed, and to make it so that men understand what is offensive, what is not offensive,
right.
That sort of thing, because it's important. There was a thing online that was talking about how to address people, and it says, don't call a woman a lady or ladies. Say hi or hi there, or make it very because now we've gotten into a real new place, which is non-gender specific and stuff like that. So that would be great to have somebody come on and talk about that as well. So
yeah, we have a couple of gender experts, which is really educational, and it's something, we're all learning that. We're all, even people with the best of intentions aren't 100% sure what the correct terminology is, and they want to learn it and they want to use it. So we've had those panels at our summits, but it's something we could definitely bring somebody on to discuss it, because it is, and it's for us, it's always like, was the intention behind, like if someone says guys and then they're like, oh, I'm sorry, it's like, it's fine. I don't mind being called guys. Like I get it. It's a colloquialism, but just don't call me ma'am.
Ma'am.
You know, like,
Oh, hold on. I got to write that down.
You can call me Toots. You can call me Cookie. Whatever you want. Don't call me ma'am.
When I was younger, I used to hate it when even like a waitress, another female, would call me sweetie. And now that I'm older, I'm like, no, anyone can call me. Like, just don't call me ma'am.
So don't call me ma'am.
Well, the other thing that I think it would be very helpful for men to understand is what is a derogatory term to a woman that can be crossing the line into a Holly has to remind me occasionally because I
Don't get out of your house much.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not as young as I used to be, and so you used to be able to say things and get away with stuff that you can't do anymore, and stuff. And she said to me the other day, "It's a good thing I'm a contractor because if I was your employee, I'd sue your ass."
That's not what I said. I said I could sue your ass. Not that I could.
Good and would are very different. Look, we totally know that like things have to, people are like, when Harvey Weinstein and guys like that were getting in trouble, finally, people were like, well, it was a different time. It's like, no, there was never a good time for that, for his behavior. But there are certain things that people, it just was the way it was, that weren't sexual assault, that it was the way it was. And it's going to take everybody time to adjust to it. But as long as you're trying, like, you're a good guy. We know you're a good guy. You may use a phrase that's outdated, but it's not like, see, I knew Kevin was a lecherous old soul. It's like, no, it was a term that we all used back in there are lots of times I'll use a term and then I'll be like, where does that phrase come from? And what does that really mean? Is that something that we can say anymore? I don't think it is. And then you really look into like the history of a catch, of an expression, and you're like, oh, that's what
etymology.
That meant.
Yeah, etymology is so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I'm constantly like saying to people I know, like, you might not know that that's where that came from, but I just want you to know so that you can decide if you want to say that again.
I think that would be a really good
a whole show on that.
Absolutely. I've got to tell you a quick one. I did not know what this meant, and I'm not going to tell you what it means now, but I used to call somebody a dingleberry, and I had no idea what that meant. And until somebody enlightened me.
No, yeah, just people can etymology Google that one.
Yeah, let's Google that one. I don't know that one.
I don't know.
I have to eat at some point today, so we're not gonna.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Maybe I won't Google that one. I'll just. Hopefully, I haven't said dingleberry in a long time, if ever. So I can look around it.
Well, once you know what it means, you'll never use it again,
and you cannot unknow it.
Okay. You've been fairly warned.
Yeah.
That's exactly true. But it's like, people like Harvey Weinstein and Roger Ailes and O'Reilly and those guys. The reason they act that way is because they can't get a woman legitimately because they're
and because they're maniac sociopaths.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's like, I don't know. But all of those things will be helpful to both men and women to understand and to act accordingly. So I think I really, and by the way, Holly, this was Holly's idea. And I really want to thank you because I really enjoy talking to these wonderful people, and we get a lot of stuff done. And I want to thank you for coming up with that, Holly.
Oh yeah, not a problem. Kevin originally had the idea of the top 100. So for anyone that's listening that has been a guest on the show before, if you are interested in being one of the top 100, where we invite you back and kind of start getting themes going and help cross promote each other, put a comment in the comments. Put a message in the comments, because we would like to start being aware of those people that have been on the show that do want to be potentially part of the top 100.
Or you can email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro and we will. If you've been on a guest before and you have an idea, as an example, one of the guests we're going to have the first of the month, every month, is a couple of really talented astrologers, and so we're going to talk about the moon and the sun and all that stuff and what's happening for the coming up month, and it to just by way of education and to have a little fun with it too.
Love that.
That's great.
That's really fun.
Yeah, so we're planning on doing a lot of that kind of stuff, and with the vast numbers of women that you have in your group and know, and as your group continues to grow, that will continue to grow. It will be really, really helpful to everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the goal, right? We have a thing on our in our sisterhood called the Wall of Women's Wins, which anytime someone has a win, they can post about it. And that's spanned from like Nancy and I taking 2 weeks off for Christmas was a big win for us. But we've also, last week we had 4 Passionistas who won their elections in California. So that was a win. We had a woman who had a billboard in Times Square on New Year's Eve. She's a Passionista. So it's this wide range of things. But our philosophy is when one of us wins, we all win. So, you know, I look at this show that way too. It's like, here we are together, supporting each other, spreading the word. You know, it's just it's what makes being part of a community of any kind really enriching.
Exactly. Well, you just said something that I think I hope he's an enlightened guy, because he said this. Bruce Springsteen, just before he launches into Born to Run, he says, "Nobody wins unless everybody wins."
Oh.
So I think that's really cool. And
Yeah.
so congratulations, Holly. We're going to run out of time here. So what would you like to add?
Oh, sure. I would love to hear some name drops. So if you could pick anyone dead or alive that you want to have on this collaboration show, what the first name is that comes to mind, and we can wrap it up with Kevin name dropping it, and we can start with Amy and then go to Nancy.
Oh, I have to go first.
Sorry, I had to pick someone.
We had, you went alphabetically, I understand. We have had the opportunity to briefly interview our lifelong hero, Dr. Jane Goodall. We had a 30-minute interview with her via Zoom, which was the highlight of our careers. But I'm always happy to talk to her again and for another hour. So I'm always open to having more Dr. Jane Goodall time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
How
still
about
haven't
you,
narrowed
Nancy?
it down to one.
It can be, I can see how it would be very hard. I'll throw out the doctor that created the Biomimicry Institute as my would be like the coolest. Well, Nancy's trying to pick one, and you can in the future we can pick more too.
You know,
So it doesn't have to be.
The person that comes to mind, and it's a total pie in the sky one, but I'm going to put it out in the universe so it'll come true, is Michelle Obama.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Oh no, now you made me think. Oh geez. I would love to interview Michelle, or I'd love to interview both of them at the same time. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
But it's in my mind, because it's a lifelong deal, Sir Paul McCartney.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
That's a really good.
And from what I understand, he's a nice guy and a good interview, and he treats people with kindness, and he doesn't eat animals.
It's true.
Yep.
Not for a very long time. From before that was even a cool thing to do.
Right.
Well, you know how the story goes of how he did that, don't you?
Linda started it, right?
He was, well, first of all, I interviewed a guy who lived up the street from them when they were in Scotland. And Mulla Kintyre was the little place that he was in. And this gentleman, his name is MacDonald, and he lived up the hill. But the story goes that Paul McCartney and Linda were sitting having lamb chops, and there were sheep that were running around in the yard, and they were eating and going, "Are we eating his brother? What are we eating?" It's like, so they decided that they loved their animals too much and couldn't eat them anymore. So
amazing.
Which is
a very nice song also, Mulla Kintyre.
Yes, indeed. Holly, have you ever heard that song?
I don't think
it's
so.
beautiful.
You need to look. It is one of the best that he ever wrote.
Mhm.
Over time.
What's the name of it again?
Mullah Kintyre.
Mulcentire. Is that two
And
words or one word?
Beats
I don't
me.
know.
I'll try the voice to speaker and it'll know.
Yes, it really is a cool song. Ladies, it's great having you here. I'm looking forward to this little adventure. We're going to go down the road together and we will see where we end up.
We thank you so much for inviting us to do this. Holly, thank you for having the idea. Kevin, thank you for giving us the space. And thanks to everybody who listens to us. We promise we're going to bring the greatest women who you will love.
It's all we can ask for, because personally, I like women more than men anyway, but don't tell anybody. Holly, anything you'd like to add before we go?
Yeah, we are taking notes. If you put a comment in YouTube, we're taking notes on taglines for the collaboration show. So if you're listening and you're like, that was so inspiring, this is the tagline. I think every time someone says this sentence, it would remind me of this collaboration show between the Passionistas and Positive Talk Radio. Put it in the comments.
Love it.
Love it.
Excellent.
That is just awesome. Ladies, again, where do they need to go to find you and the Passionista Project, I do believe.
The Passionistas Project / Positive Talk.
Get your 20% discount to join the community.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. It's been great fun having you here. We've got to go, but you guys stay right there. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We are a production of kmmedia.pro. A full-service media company. Whether it is audio, video, shorts, or longer pieces, we're able to take each project from beginning to final product within your time frame and on budget. Visit kmmedia.pro for more details about us and to get started on your project. We also would like to thank the Brushwood Media Network for all their support. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com to find out more about them and the quality shows featured on the network. Until then, we'll see you next time. My name again is Kevin McDonald, and please remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.